The Shared Parental Leave Regulations 2014 were introduced by the coalition government through Section 117 of the Children's and Families Act 2014 in an attempt to provide families with a means of ensuring both parents played a fundamental role in the early stages of the child's development. Shared parental leave could also be perceived as a way of trying to bring greater equality to the workplace by removing obstacles that prevent both parents being able to share childcare responsibilities. In this presentation, we will critically analyze the legislation by looking at the benefits of the Act, the limitations, and the reforms with regards to the interests of women in low-paid, insecure work with caring requirements.
So I will be discussing the first benefit of shared parental leave. That's that it attempts to dismantle a gendered division in work. According to the Workplaces consultation originally, the main aim of shared parental leave was to encourage fathers and spouses to take an increased role in their childcare. It allows them to do this by making available the full 52 weeks available to mums transferable over to fathers. Previously, this had been a maximum of 26 weeks, helping to maintain a link to the workforce after childbirth. Furthermore, Maternity Action claimed that 60,000 mums leave work every year through pregnancy-related dismissals. Therefore, finally, it means that men as well as women are seen as potential carers, and therefore removes the stigma solely attached to women as employers fear absence through childbirth.
The key aims of shared parental leave was to enable working fathers to take a more active role in caring for their children and for working parents to share the care of their children. With that being said, the benefit of shared parenting leave which precedes the legislation is that it did create a smoother integration for women back into the workplace. This is because, in reality, maternity leave can amount to a 52-week hiatus from work. This is more than enough to leave anyone feeling out of the loop and slightly intimidated about their reintegration. Although there are several options which can help maintain the connection to the workplace, such as keep-in-touch days or the ability to return to work 2 weeks after giving birth, your shared parental leave rights can offer a more well-rounded solution, as both parties can take a shared leave however they choose. They can take time off at the same time or alternate who stays at home and who goes back to work. Secondly, it is also noted that such policies would support women in maintaining a strong attachment to the workplace. If men spend more time caring, women will have more time to participate in the workplace. Achieving shared parenting would therefore reduce the gender penalty that women suffer from taking time out of the workplace with their children. This helps women maintain their link in the workplace, ensuring wages are not driven down while providing some reassurance to their employability status. So I think from a business perspective, the smoothness in transition policies like this help retain the talent pool and increase productivity in the long term. However, in considering these benefits, many employers choose to provide enhanced pay to mothers taking maternity leave, while offering statutory pay only for those taking shared parental leave. Consequently, it does not make financial sense for a mother to forego her maternity pay in order to share her leave with a partner. Legally, many have argued that it is unlawful for employers to offer maternity pay at an enhanced rate and shared parental pay at a statutory rate, as this is discriminatory against men. In conclusion, women of low-paid, insecure work who are not mothers also suffer from discrimination because some employers are wary of hiring them, fearing that women will let them down by having children and consequently being absent from the workplace. Such discrimination contributes to the gender pay gap, which has recently widened to 19.7%.
Women in low-paid, insecure work very rarely satisfy the requirements for the shared parental leave regulations due to the restricted nature of the requirements. This is a major issue in regard to the effectiveness of the Act, in that one of the main aims of the Act was to try to tackle the social stigma regarding women being the primary caregiver for children. Women often undertake insecure work to allow them to also undertake caring commitments, so it can be argued that through the Act not even applying to such a wide range of people, it's severely limited. The Act requires women to earn at least £118 a week, the lower earning limit for NI contributions. However, due to the variability of working hours per week for women in zero-hour contract roles, especially if these roles are low paid, the requirement is often not satisfied. Furthermore, due to women often undertaking agency work and so shifting between job roles, they often don't satisfy the requirement of being employed continuously for at least 26 weeks either. The restricted nature of the SPR requirements therefore mean that women in low-paid, insecure jobs aren't afforded the flexibility in regard to sharing parental leave, and so the Act isn't being applied to such a wide range of individuals. This also reinforces the abuse of workers in zero-hour contracts as when women in insecure roles ask for such entitlements, it's leaving women in a position of vulnerability against employers with potentially higher levels of power. SPR regulations are therefore in need of dire reform to widen the scope of the Act for it to apply to women in low-paid, insecure work. The Women's Equality Party have argued that shared parental leave and statutory maternity pay should be available to all working individuals, even those in zero-hour contracts and those who are self-employed. Fredman argues that employment rights should be divorced from individual employment relations through giving equal rights to all parents that participate in paid work, however marginally. In doing so, women would still be entitled to such flexibility, and so the Act would target the group of individuals who are widely struggling due to the absence of the parental pay help, and so would increase the effectiveness of the Act.
Interpretation of the shared parental leave regulations regards the amount of money parents are paid when taking this leave. Currently, those on shared parental leave receive £148.68 a week, or 90% of their earnings, depending on which works out to be less. Whilst this consistent income may be desirable for women with caring commitments and insecure work, it could equally not be attractive if the father or partner can continue working and bringing money in for the family at a higher rate. Mitchell agrees with this line of argument too, stating that low pay will likely only encourage fathers to take leave when the mother earns the most money or if they're wealthy enough to afford both parents being off. However, for mothers in low-paid, insecure work, shared leave will not be an affordable option if the partner is the main source of income and wouldn't make financial sense for the partner to take leave so the mother can return to low-paid work, demonstrating the need for reform. Pay for shared leave also isn't as generous as maternity pay, since maternity leave includes 6 weeks of pay at 90% of their wage and the remaining 33 weeks being at statutory pay. The fact that there's this difference in pay demonstrates the failure of the regulations in challenging stereotypical gender roles. Both Atkinson and Fredman argue that it instead reinforces the idea that women should work flexible, yet often insecure jobs to balance their care commitments, whilst the father should continue working and be the provider for the family, since care commitments isn't expected of him due to parental leave for fathers not being a day one right. Therefore, reform for the shared parental leave regulations should be to increase the pay for leave to make it more affordable and desirable for couples. Mitchell also agrees that encouraging couples to take this leave requires higher pay, as a larger income is indispensable to meet costs of raising a child. This would mean that if the mother is in low-paid, insecure work with caring commitments, and the partner is the main source of income, having higher pay whilst on leave would make taking shared parental leave more economically viable and accessible to these families.
Lastly, one of the key provisions under the SPL is the need for consent given by employers or fathers or partners of mothers in order for them to gain SPL. However, it can be argued that there shouldn't be a need to do so. The choice of parenting should lie entirely onto the hands of parents themselves, and employers shouldn't be able to dictate or have a reign on whether a parent wants to care for the child or not. If an employer chooses to not give his consent for a father to get SPL, it defeats the whole purpose of the provisions. Additionally, it can be said that this would be one of the contributing factors when it comes to what Mitchell coins as a soundbite legislation. But it is understandable that this provision was created, likely due to policy reasons. Employers need to be able to retain some certainty in their workforce, especially since they have a much bigger responsibility attached to them in regards to the functioning of the labour market, as stated by Fredman. In contrast, however, it can also be said that because SPL is not compulsory, employers may abuse this power as well, and steps must be taken to monitor this. Additionally, Burkett emphasizes on how different families will have different experiences with SPL. For example, if mothers with insecure work were the breadwinners of the family, it could somewhat be detrimental to their household income on top of having to care for children. Coming down to societal reasons, this would reinforce the gender stereotype of mothers being the sole carers of their child. What this does is indirectly contradict the aims of the SPL provisions for dismantling the cultural barriers of parenting. In regards to how this would affect mothers with insecure work and caring commitments, the consent element produces a domino effect. It is known that insecure work would result in uncertainty on when there would be work and how much one would get paid. If the other parent is granted SPL, this would mean that they will be able to assist in caring commitments and in turn allow mothers to have some weight lifted off their shoulders and allow them to get back into the workforce as smoothly as possible. Hence, for reforms, it can be said that the provisions for consent should be removed entirely, although this is easier said than done. However, it will also be helpful to educate employers on the benefits of SPL in order for there to be a greater awareness. This will allow employers to be well versed with SPL and would hence influence the decision when it comes to granting SPL.
Overall, as a group, we have shown that there are both pros and cons to shared parental leave. The pros being an attempt to dismantle a gender division in work and also to maintain a link to the workforce after childbirth. However, the cons are serious, as there is a lack of financial incentive to take up shared parental leave for fathers, and also employers' consent is also needed. Therefore, the University of Birmingham have come to the conclusion that only 9,200 eligible families chose to take up parental leave in the years 17-18, which was just over 1%, substantially lower than the estimate provided by the government, which was between 2 and 8%. As a group, we would support a suggestion put forward by academic Mitchell, a day one right which will be based on income, which would be more of a financial incentive for fathers to take up shared parental leave.